Next up we've got Rebecca. Now Rebecca messaged me this morning. I always say to the speakers, which is the fun side, please send me your slides a week before so the marketing team can get it all together. Rebecca messaged me this morning saying, I've gone from having no slides to 127. So if you've not been to the toilet, sorry about this, look at it, I'm joking. So we will move on.
Also, was anyone really interested about what was in this tin, by the way? Yes. I was sat there, what is in this tin? It's just stuff.
Well, Rebecca's let's talk about what is in the silver tin. That's what she sent me, along with collaboration as the catalyst for success, driving value with innovation, security and pace, leading and empowering teams for high performance delivery. It's like I've just made it all.
You've been here for me now.
Well, thank you.
I may wonder over here, I may wonder over there. Who knows where I wonder? Question, who's the software developer in the room? Hi, I can't really see this. I think that's higher than that, please. Right. Great, and you're doing that job now, yeah? What about the ones that have been software developers? Have anyone been a software developer? More hands? That's pretty good, good. And who's actually written some code with ChatGPT or online? Yeah, I'm Group CEO for NCC Group. We're actually headquartered, I don't know, about 5 minutes away, but me and Haley were driving in today and it took about an hour and a half to get here, and we still didn't park at work. It's a FTSE 250 cyber business. Anyone heard of NCC Group? Yeah? Good to see them all. We do one or two things. We're either a cyber business, cybersecurity business, and I'll talk endlessly on that one, or an escrow business. And of course, if you're a software developer, you write some software, keeps it safe for you, right? That's all I'm going to say about NCC Group. It's a really, really interesting business. I started out as a developer, and a real privilege. When I say privilege, my dad was a computer science teacher, right? I could code at 8. That's what got me in coding. At the time, clearly it was quite an isolated activity because, you know, right now it's a collaboration. If you're software developing, if you're not collaborating, you're not doing your fucking job, quite simply. So my dad was my pair coder, basically. But that's really what got me into IT. And I think about my career, I'll stop waffling about this in a minute, but you know, I've done every aspect, I think, of IT. I've looked after service desks, I've done project management. You know, I've also looked after sales teams. I was an IT director in one organisation, and I'm going to come on to why this was the case. The boss said to me, Rebecca, could you lead this sales team as well as lead IT? And that all goes back to leadership. And I think the leadership in IT, when we talk about what we're doing in NCC or what we're specifically have to do in NCC, all the stuff that I do is about leadership. It's very little to do with technology, it's about leading people, making sure there's strategy, making sure there's direction where we need to go. I'm also an interim career. Where's Dave? I met Dave earlier on. Where's Dave? Hello. Yeah, I've done really good interim. I love doing interim, right? If anybody's not done that, by the way, as a career, I definitely recommend doing it. It means you get to go to different places, meet new people every bloody day. It's awesome. Anyway, I've got about 180 staff and some outsourced people, by the way, about 10, 15 people based out in India and also contracted out of a North American office. But I've got teams in North America, UK, Netherlands, in Spain, and Portugal, Australia, and most recently Manila in the last couple of years. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's truly, genuinely a proper global technology function that I run for a truly global business that's highly, it's in the technology space, right? Which has its challenges, right? I've got 1,000 consultants that are definitely, in some cases, more technical than me, and I joke about it, right? They don't want to hack my laptop or tell me how to do my job. It's that entertaining. But my job really is about orchestrating my function with the wider business. It's about role modeling that collaboration. It's about developing and driving the strategy, of course. But we've got to remember that winning itself is a team sport. If we're not all in together, heading in that direction, we're not going to win. But let me just point back, I was interested in opening that team because I'm a developer, right? I want to know how to fix something or how to build something. But there's a moment a couple of years ago that changed everything. It actually, when I reflect back now and I think about the last couple of months that I've had to do some not very nice things with my particular team. My team, in fact the whole of NCC has been built definitely through organic, but it's also been built through quite some M&A, through acquisition. Global markets demand that. But we decided that we needed to be more competitive in the market, right? You know, people that working and selling their skills here, it's bloody hard, right? There's global economics, there's always somebody doing cheaper than that. We decided to open up a global delivery centre in Manila. There was a whole process that went through Artist Manila, and I can talk about that over Peter a bit later. And why with that, we have to be a competitor that's better than our competition. We've got to be driving, getting more revenue from being more price competitive, which is great, right? Some of our delivery consultants are on Manila, fantastic. And by the way, the people in the Philippines are just a brilliant amount of people. They're just amazing. Their English is incredible, their education is fantastic, their work ethic is unbelievable. But for me, that was also an opportunity to go, well, what am I going to do with my function, my 180 people, of which some of them are software developers? What am I going to do with this? How am I going to get more value out of what I've got? Some multi-million-pound budget, how am I getting more value from that? Just the whole of IT function. And if I think of three things, right, everything we should be thinking of is three things. If you're not driving revenue, you're not focused on margin, or you're not reducing risk, what are you doing? What are you doing every day if you're not doing any of those things? And for me, it's about making sure we focus on driving the margin of our business. How can I get cost out of my function? How can I get more out of my developers and drive that forwards? So that wonderful word arbitrage, you touched on it. But you know, how do we get different cost of person from a different location? And by the way, we did that to some extent with Spain, but of course Spain now is pretty much the same as the UK, right? You did that the same with Eastern Europe, and again, pretty much the same really now where we are with the rest of it. So, for me, it was about how do I drive my function, my software developers, and how do I get some actual advantage using Manila. We're here to talk about software development teams, so I'm not really going to talk about the mechanics of what I've done. But for me, it's about how do we drive the value and maintain the value without actually reducing, by also saving the cost as well. But on this, it's like leadership for me is absolutely crucial. I think about all the disciplines in any function, any IT function, any business. The leadership in a technical function is absolutely critical. Our people are the interface between the humans, right? The humans and the technology. We are the interface. All of you work in IT. But of course, some of these people quite possibly could be more computers than human. And that's our job to make sure that we lead. And I reflect back to my younger days before I even had a personality back. It's really important that we lead our people to drive their sense of actually making more of the technology they're using. Has anyone heard of Steve Jobs' grip? No? Steve Jobs definitely chatted. You know. Basically, Steve Jobs came up with this. I'm not a big fan of Steve Jobs, but he came up with this thing about making sure that when you lead teams, when you lead your development teams, you give them a very, very clear intent about what you want them to do. Making sure that you keep them ultra focused on what the end result is that you want to have. And I urge you all that when you have global, international delivery teams of software, you'll make them very, very focused. It goes back to the point you were saying, Steve, in terms of making sure you've got an outsourced partner. If they're going wandering off developing stuff that's not relevant, they're just writing really, really extensive lines of code that are of no use to you. You've got to make sure that your international teams, your global development teams, are driving value from every single line of code they do, every single day from day one. And of course that comes from having great product managers. I'm going to take that, very good. It also comes from making sure that you're driving the best out of your development team, and the senior leaders in that development team are driving absolutely every single line of code coming out of that development team is absolutely spot on, making sure it's actually adding value back to the business. So Manila for us wasn't just about expanding our delivery, it was also making sure that we're keeping extra value from that as well. Yeah, we'll be making values in terms of the cost of employees. There's also a challenge where Manila is based. If anybody knows where Manila is based, any country you know is nearby? Next to China. Yeah. So we're a cyber business, so we have a lot of challenges in terms of how we're going to make sure that we trust our people. Yes, you're right, you can't always do security checks. But there's that also challenge where we want to make sure that Manila is a very safe place for us to work. And you're right, making sure everything's on camera in our infrastructure. But of course, it was about making sure a really, really simple target operating model, making sure it was simple, making sure that developers in the UK, the Netherlands, Spain were all working together, making sure that we drove additional developers in Manila through attrition, and more recently something a little bit more structured, which I'm not going to go into. We've got to remember that code has no borders, but engineering teams do. So that collaboration about culture, that using the same software, and the software's written everywhere, right? Literally it's written everywhere, making sure the right collaboration tools are in place, making sure the right leadership tools are in place. And remember that teams are the thing that write code, not developers. I'm going to go back to this point about the misalignment of where you're heading actually holds up productivity. So we've got to make sure that you have those clear frameworks for working, and that those global teams aren't disconnected from the business goals, and we're constantly going back to what is the business that it wants. If I think about the software that we're developing in the engineering teams in NCC, they're either actually directly focused towards the business or they're focused towards their customers. Anything else in the last 3.5 years that I've been there, I've literally just stopped the delivery of. Anything that I could in terms of consolidated. So we've got a really, really clear mission, and whether we do that in the UK or other places or Manila, it's all the same. We've got to make sure that the standards are non-negotiable. No one should be developing a different standard in a different way in a different region. We've got to make sure they're all the same play, in all the same way. We've got to make sure that those developers are fully engaged, and the leaders role model the behaviours that set the bar of excellence on quality and security and pace all the time. And we've got to remember that the DevOps and CI and CD is the heartbeat, that drumbeat of that kind of modern software development. And I always love this one: if you're not shipping, you're slipping. Got to make sure we get this about all the time. How long have we got? Better wrap now. Okay, so I just want to talk about the future. No one talks about AI. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about it later. I've got a question. Are the developers in here, are you using AI? Is everybody using AI as part of that? You're definitely using over there. You're not using over there?
No one will admit to it.
No one admits to it. I love it. We're talking about global development teams right now, but the question I've got for you, and maybe this is a question for the panel later, in 10 years, will AI be the team leader? Will it be your entire team? And I think this is a question we've got to ask. It definitely is something that's enabling developers and coders to code better. It already detects security flaws, it already tells us how to optimise our code. Do we still need software engineers in 10 years' time? I don't know. But what I do know is if you're in software delivery and you're not using AI now, whether you're a global business, you're not delivering the software that you should be delivering. And I just urge you to think about, right now, it's about global software delivery, how you